Once upon a time, there was this small city that was kind of nestled in between a lot of relatively low mountains. They had a lot of trees in the mountains, and the city was home to several families, several hundred families that were kind of upper middle class, and they all worked in a nearby city. They all had to take this long kind of windy road to get to the city where they all worked. But it was a very, very nice community. They all knew each other really well. And in the middle, they had this big park, and the big park was about maybe half the size of a football field, and half of the park was this big flat cement area where they could kind of sit and talk, and the kids could practice their skateboard tricks, and the other half was this big grassy area where the kids could run around and play catch, and there was really no sports field or organized areas to play. It was just a big flat space where you could do whatever you wanted. And every weekend, almost every weekend, the parents would kind of meet in this park, and they would just let their kids run loose all around the park. And they had these benches, these square cement benches that were around the outside of the cement area of the park. And one day, the parents were sitting, talking, having their coffee, and the kids were out running around, and there was this clown that appeared on the kind of the far end of the cement area of the playground. And they looked at this clown, and at first they thought he was maybe a member of the community, maybe dressing up for someone's birthday, and they asked and they checked, and it was nobody's birthday, but this clown just stood there, and so they ignored him. Maybe they thought he was part of an advertising campaign or something, but he just stood there, didn't do anything, and he was there every Saturday for a couple weeks. And it didn't take long for the kids to kind of become very, very curious. And so the kids would start to approach the clown, and at first the parents were really, really nervous and worried because who knew who this clown was. But the kids would approach this clown, and pretty soon the clown would just smile at them and wave, like clowns do. And the kids started to get comfortable with this clown. And after a while, the parents, after maybe a month or 2 months had passed, the parents kind of got used to him too. And they kind of looked forward to the clown. The kids would look forward to seeing this clown every Saturday, just because he was some weird looking guy that stood there, and he was kind of funny and he was interesting. And once the kids started to immediately go and sit around this clown at the far end of this cement park, he started doing tricks. And at first they were these pretty lame tricks, like he would blow these balloon bubbles, or not balloon bubbles, but the regular bubbles with the soap and the little plastic thing, and he'd make all these shapes and stuff, but the shapes would almost kind of change in midair, like they would be under his control or something. And the kids, of course, thought this was amazing, and the parents kind of noticed that he was starting to do these tricks. And so the parents kind of started to gather around behind the kids and watch the clown do these tricks. And this went on for another couple weeks. And then the clown started doing tricks with balloon animals, like regular clowns do. And he started doing these tricks with the balloon animals, and like clowns do, he would give the kids these balloon animals that he would make, and the kids would, of course, take these balloon animals home, which the parents didn't have a problem with. But then the parents started to notice that their kids were starting to behave a little bit better at home once they had taken these balloon animals home, and they were fighting less with their brothers and sisters. They were staying up, or arguing about staying up late, or wanting to stay up late, and they were actually eating their vegetables. And the parents started to talk amongst themselves about why this was happening, but nobody really wanted to ruin it, because it was suddenly a lot easier to be a parent. And these kids would have these clown-made balloon animals in their bedrooms at night, and they never deflated. They never kind of went soft over time like those balloon animals usually do. And then one day, the clown did some really amazing magic, and no one could explain what it was. He started off making these balloon animals. He started off making these balloon animals like he normally did, except when he gave the balloon animals to the kids, the balloon animals turned into real animals. And They were really, really cute animals, little bunnies, puppies, kittens. One little girl got a little ferret. Really, really cute. And so the parents at first like, what? This is what? At first, the parents were worried this was some kind of weird trick. Maybe he had some kind of, I don't know, hidden bag behind him or something. A couple of the parents were worried that some kind of animal control was going to come in and shut the whole show down. So they didn't really say anything. They just kind of was weird. And the kids brought these animals home. And of course the parents were worried at first, but they figured the animals were cute and the kids liked them and the clown seemed okay. And so another couple of weeks went by and the clown would start doing balloon tricks again, but they were just regular balloon tricks. And the animals would sleep with the kids in their rooms. And the parents were just overjoyed because the kids like had this pet that they would take care of, and the kids were like really, really good about taking care of these pets. And the kids were just perfect little kids. They were eating their vegetables, they were doing their homework. And then one day the clown just disappeared. And the parents were sad, the kids were sad, but the kids were now happier because they had these little animals with them. They're like little pets, their own little pets. And so the parents were like, well, that was cool. I wonder why that happened. And there were all kinds of rumors as to why this happened and why the clown chose that city to come and give them this wonderful gift. And the parents started to think that they were maybe special somehow, or they'd been chosen or something, and they never really talked about it too long because they were worried that if they worried about it, something bad would happen. And then one night, something bad did happen, and one particular parent woke up to hear her young son screaming in agony. She rushed into his bedroom, and he was sitting up in bed just wailing, and his eyeballs had been gouged out of their sockets, and his eye sockets were filled with cut up, teared up, chewed up flesh and eyeballs. And the parent picked the kid up and drove him immediately, or got the husband to drive them to the emergency room. But along the way to the emergency room, a very troubling thought came in her mind. She started wondering if she was the only one that this had happened to. And if it was, she might become an outcast because the other townspeople might think that something was wrong with her, and that's why her child's pet turned on her child. And so she was worried about her place in the community as she was rushed to the hospital by her husband. And she was actually gratified on some level when she got to the hospital and noticed that all the other parents were there also. And they all had their children. And all of their children had their eyes ripped out. And she was relieved to see all the kids screaming and wailing and yelling, because then she wasn't the only one. And so the problem was that it was kind of a small town, and they only had one doctor in this hospital. And it took at least a day for the doctor to see all of the kids. And most of the kids were just wailing and screaming, and forever they were blinded and horribly traumatized. And so now this town has parents that wondering what went wrong when they could have stopped it, and all the children are blind.